All right, here's a great question from Dylan. How are your portfolio companies tackling growth? There are two major issues right now in the startup world. It's not how do I come up with a great product idea? It's not how do I build a great product? It's not how do I find a team? It's not how do I find customers? All those things kind of exist in the world, right? And it's very often not what's the technological solution here. Most of the technologies out there, most of the customers are sitting out there. Really, how do I acquire those customers, right? How do I get to them is the issue. How do I retain them is another issue, right? And how do I raise money? So we'll put aside raising money. Tackling growth, really, there are two different ways people go about it. One is maintaining your existing customer base. In other words, you have customers, you want to retain them. So there's a whole science of retention. Your best customer is an existing customer. If you don't lose a customer, in a way, you've gained a customer, right? You don't want to lose customers. The way to not lose customers is to study their engagement. If you're studying the people you've already brought into your product and you study them and you find out they've stopped using the product, you got to go talk to that customer and say, hey, you were using the product, you stopped. Why? Whether it's a consumer product or a SaaS product, whether you're charging them or it's free, you need to know why they left. So as an example, when people leave our email newsletters, we send them, hey, a confirmation message. Yes, you've been removed. We would like to know, why did you leave? I left because I no longer need this information. I left because you're sending me too many emails. I left for this reason. I left, I'm no longer interested, whatever it is. That exit interview, which could occur in a forum or it could occur in an actual interview where you call the customer and say, hey, I saw you canceled. Can I just ask you 3 questions? When did you think you were going to cancel? Why did you cancel? Do you have enough? How are you going to solve for this problem in the future? That's very important. Now, how do you get new customers? Most people are building a team, a growth team inside their company. And there's a big debate. Should you have dedicated growth people or should you have a growth culture? Both of these models work. Having a person who is responsible for growing and getting people into the funnel, that works. Having a system where you have everybody in the company focused on growth, that also works. Either one can work. But here's what doesn't work: ignoring growth, not tracking your metrics. So you have to spend time investing in your infrastructure and you have to know, hey, how many people are listening to This Week in Startups? Okay, how did new people find out about the show? Hey, are we collecting emails? Are we collecting emails in these different places? When's the last time we asked our Twitter or Facebook followers to give us their email? Hey, when's the last time we emailed our list, right? When's the last time we tweeted? Is anybody retweeting us, right? So what typically happens in an organization is you hire people. I have Emmy award-winning producer Jackie, I have Jake, I have Ashley, all these different people who work on This Week in Startups. They didn't have growth or marketing as a job description at their previous companies, right? Nobody did. It's only now in this ultra-competitive startup environment that you have startups where all the different job positions are thinking about growth, and that's great. You want everybody in the organization, in my opinion, to learn how things grow. So I'm forcing everybody in my organization to understand how social media works, to understand how SEO works, to understand about how paid traffic works, to understand how to put a Facebook or Twitter ad up, to understand about open rates on email. The right people will embrace this. The wrong people will be scared. If people are scared, you got to sit them down and say, hey, listen, I know that you haven't done this before, but just because you haven't done it doesn't mean you can't. And if you learn this skill, you will become part of the elite group of soldiers in the startup world. In other words, you can go from being a private in the Army to being SEAL Team 6. You can be a Ranger or you can be a Marine. You can move up the stack and be more elite. Who doesn't want to be elite? Lazy people. If somebody fights you on being elite and they refuse to learn how to do growth, they're not elite enough to be on your team. And you should have a candid conversation with them. Hey, producer Jackie, I know you have 4 Emmys, but we're a podcast. We're up against other podcasts who are learning how to do growth. I need you to learn some of these growth techniques. And to our credit, Jackie's learned how Twitter works, how Facebook works, how clips work, how collecting emails work, all this stuff that maybe when she was at another company getting her Emmys, they didn't actually require. Everybody in the world who wants to be elite and work in startup culture has to understand the fundamentals of growth. And it's the job of the leader to set the tone. If I don't set the tone that everybody's responsible for growth and I don't understand how growth works, then it's just me yelling at a bunch of people on my team, hey, make it grow. You all have to get in it together and learn the skills of how to grow your company. That all starts with understanding your customers and why they watch your show. If you know people are watching This Week in Startups because they want to learn, or they want to understand how investors think, or they want to be inspired, it makes it a lot easier. And how do you learn that? You ask them, why do you watch the show? Anytime I meet people, when you come up to me and say, hey, Jason, I love the show. Anybody who's come up to me and says that knows the exact thing I ask them. Who's your favorite guest? What do you like about the show? What have you learned? I always just ask them a couple of questions so I know what they like. Makes sense, right? So I think the way my companies are doing it is they're generally making everybody in the company aware of customer acquisition and customer retention, right? How do we engage these customers and retain the ones we get, and how do we get new ones into the funnel? And if everybody understands that that's the goal and growth is the goal of the startup, well, then you can be freed. We're not here just to tape episodes of This Week in Startups. We're here to tape episodes of This Week in Startups and get people to watch them. Taping the show is half the battle. Putting together a great show is half the battle. Getting people to that show is the other half, right? I have to deal with this exact issue, Dylan. So thank you for asking your question. Hey, everybody. I want to take a moment to tell you about retargeting. This is a very, very important thing for startups to understand because customer acquisition is what it's all about, and AdRoll is the best retargeting platform on the planet. Over 25,000 advertisers use it. And I want to tell you today about a new product they have. It's called SendRoll. No, it's not sending to get your rolls and buttered rolls. No, this is about email. And SendRoll lets you get all those people who are window shoppers, people who are checking out your website, and then you can convert them into buyers, which is what you want, getting them to sign up for your product or service by email. So imagine they visit your site, but then they get an email follow-up. SendRoll is powerful retargeting tech plus effective emails, and the results have been spectacular. The average SendRoll gets a 45 to 60% open rate and a 10 to 20% click-through. And I can tell you, running inside.com, that is probably 3 times, 4 times the industry average. And it's so easy to set up a SendRoll campaign. It just takes minutes. They give you all the templates, and they have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week customer service line if you need help. And what I always like to do when we have somebody who has a product that's loved on our program, we don't want to read any sponsor messages, any partner messages for things that are not loved. The great part is a lot of my founders from my portfolio use AdRoll, so it's very easy for me to talk about their new product, SendRoll. James Heller, the founder of Rapify, which went through my incubator, says AdRoll is an integral part of our customer acquisition strategy. It allows us to continue to garner impressions long after the initial customer interaction. It's also one of the most cost-effective tools to bolster any integrated marketing strategy. AdRoll is the best retargeting platform, period. That's according to James Heller, good friend of mine and one of my investments at Rapify. So here's your call to action, everybody. Try SendRoll and get a $100 credit. Just go to adroll.com/twist, 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 and get that $100 credit. And please try that SendRoll and give them some feedback and let them know that @Jason sent you. Okay, let's get back to this amazing program.